So starting this morning on our seats, on our mats, just a nice easy seated position. Just move our spine around, get some of the crackles out. And then closing our eyes and just giving ourselves a couple of moments to just be still, to bring our focus inward and check in with ourselves. Take deep breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. We can breathe out some of the tension that we may be holding within us. We'll also let go of any expectations that we may have. Expectations of our practice, of ourselves, of our bodies. Just reminding ourselves that, hey, we're getting on our mats, so whatever happens after that is fabulous. And then we'll seal our lips, open our eyes, inhale those hands up to the sky, wiggle the fingers open and shut the hands, and move around in those wrists. And then exhale, we'll just bring those arms back behind us, opening the chest, dropping the shoulders as the hands come down, lengthening in the neck, and then inhaling back up to the sky, and then exhaling back around. Just big circles with our breath. One more time, up and back. And back to our thighs or our knees. And then we'll open up those arms again like we want a big hug. I love you this much. And then we'll complete that hug by bringing those arms around, holding the shoulders, rounding in that back. Good. Inhale, let's open a little tiny arch. And then exhale, we'll round. One more time, open. And exhale, we round, and we'll find those fingertips on top of our shoulders. Help the shoulders come down away from our ears. And then we'll release. Wiggle the fingers, inhale up high. And then we're just going to bend that right elbow like we want to scratch our backs, and then the left hand can touch the right elbow to help it lengthen all along in that tricep. See if we can drop that shoulder as best we can, and try not to move our head around with this back right arm. And then we'll release, and then the right hand will come back all the way around like we want to touch this left hip behind with the backs of our fingers. Left hand will hold on. Exhale, let's drop that right shoulder, and then we'll lean our head off to the left, opening up the top of the shoulder and the neck. And now we can stay here if we would like, or we can just kind of gently move our head. We can bring our nose toward the floor, maybe up to the sky. Just kind of move around to see how things feel around in there. Find a spot that we think we might need to stay in. Take a few breaths. Gently encouraging the release. And then we'll lift the head. We'll release that arm. We'll shake it out. And then hands come up high and we'll move over to the other side. So left hand reaches up high and then bends at the elbow to try and scratch that impossible spot. Right hand will touch the elbow to help lengthen in that tricep. And the head and neck are soft, so please try not to tuck the chin. And then we'll gently release that arm, wiggle out the fingers if we need, and then bringing it back behind. Try and touch our fingers to the outside of that right hip. Right hand holds on. Big exhale, drop the left shoulder, drop the right shoulder, and then we'll lower our head over toward that right side. Big breaths here. So much stress and tension gets balled up in our shoulders and in our necks. And again, if we would like, we can gently move the head. See how it feels if we change the direction of our gaze. And then we'll gently release that hand. Head comes up to our neutral spine. And then from here, hands can just find the knees. And then we'll just move our chin over to one side. Relax the shoulders. And around to the other side. Gently little twists in that cervical spine. Back and forth. No need to get crazy with the speed. Or trying to force ourselves to look all the way behind us. This is not The Exorcist. It's just a nice, easy yoga class. Do one more to each side. And then back to the center. And then our hands will find the floor. We'll come up onto our hands and our knees. Open up those fingers nice and wide. Knees are underneath of our hips. Arms are straight underneath of our shoulders. We're pressing into our mats with our hands to open up those shoulder blades. Tuck the tail ever so slightly. Make some space in the low back. Breathe into our tummies. And just stay here for one more breath. Feel the length all the way from the tip of our head to the very end of our tail. And then inhale, let's lift up the right hand. And then exhale, we're just gonna reach it through for a little thread the needle. Lowering that right shoulder down onto our mats. We'll listen with our right ear to the mat. Hips are staying over our knees or our heels. Good, and then inhale, we'll come back up, lifting the hand up to the sky again. And then exhale, we're just going to reach through just a little bit. And then inhale, back up to the sky. Little spine mobility here. Exhale, we reach through. Inhale, we lift up high. Exhale through. Inhale, high. And one more time. Exhale through. And then back to our tabletop here. Let's lift up the left hand. Open up. Lengthen all the way from our fingertips to our fingertips. And then exhale, we'll just reach through. We can rest that shoulder onto our mats. Ear can come to the mat. Take a few deep breaths here. Inhale and exhale. One more breath. Good. And then slowly we'll unwind and lift the left hand up to the sky. And then exhale, we'll reach through. And then again, coming back up. And exhaling through. And inhale up. One more time. Exhale through. And back to our tabletop. Good. From here, we're going to walk our hands out just a little bit further. We're going to reach back with that right foot, flex the toes, turn the hip down toward the floor, and then just place those toes on the mat and press the heel away. Open up the calf a little bit. We're going to wake that buddy up. And then releasing the toes and bringing them all the way forward up by the hands. Just kind of wiggle our way into a lizard pose or a low lunge. Good. And now exhale, we'll walk our hands backwards, lifting the right toes up to the sky for a little split. And then inhale, we'll come forward. Exhale, we'll go back. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back. Inhaling forward. And now this time we'll go back and we'll stay back here in our half split. Hinging at the hips, hands can be to our thigh or to our shin. If we can reach the floor with our fingers, that's real cool. Relaxing the shoulders, chests are working forward toward those toes. Good. And now inhale, let's come forward. And now exhale, as we go back, we're gonna leave the toes on the ground and open up the top of that ankle. So we may not be able to go as far back as we were before. That's totally okay. We're just concentrating on a different body part now. And then back up to our lunge, hands find the floor inside that right foot. Lengthen in our backs, pull the shoulders back, lift the head just a little bit so we're looking forward. And then stepping back to our child's pose. Arms are out in front of us, butts coming back towards our heels. Good, and then let's inhale, coming on forward. Hands are out in front of us just a little bit. Knees are still underneath of our hips. We'll reach back with that left heel, lengthen in that whole leg. Flex the foot, turn those toes and the hip down toward the mat. And then we'll just place those toes down and press the heel away, open up that calf. Nice little good morning to y'all. Good, and then we'll lift up those toes and bring that foot all the way forward into our lizard pose. Take a bit of a wiggle time here. Figure out how things feel on this side. Good, and then exhale, let's walk ourselves backwards for our half split. Take a breath here. Good, and now with our breath, just going forward and backwards. So inhale, we'll come forward. Exhale, we'll work our way backwards. Inhaling, easing forward. Exhale, gliding back. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back. And coming on forward. And then this time, let's stay back here. Find our good half split, hinging at the hips. Backs are straight. Chins are working forward along with our chests. Toes are pointing up to the sky. Good. And then we'll come on forward. And then again, keeping those toes on the ground this time, we'll work our way back, open up the front of that ankle, top of the foot. Good. And then slowly let's come on forward, finding our hands inside the left foot on the mat. Fingers are spread. And then we'll step back into our child's pose. Good. Opening up those fingers nice and wide. Let's press all of those little fingers into our mat. Press the heel of our hand in, pulling the shoulders back now, opening up behind us, lengthening all the way from our fingers to our tail. And then we'll tuck those toes underneath of us. With those arches, the ankles. And now pressing into our hands right where they are, keeping our feet right where they are, we're going to begin to lift our hips up toward the skies. Bend the knees. We'll pedal the feet. Pressing one heel down into the mat. One heel down into the mat, back and forth. Good. And then lifting both heels up off of the mat onto our tippy toes, lengthen in that spine. Good. Bending the knees and then gently pressing both of those heels back down into our mats, pulling the shoulders away from our wrists, lifting our tails up toward the sky. Good. And then looking forward, just past our fingers, we'll bend the knees nice and deep. And then we can step forward into our forward fold at the top of our mat. We can release the hands, wiggle the fingers if we need. Bending the knees, let's roll our way up. Nice and slow. We have been upside down for a little bit. Bringing those hands up to the sky. Making ourselves as tall as we can. And then exhale, let's bring those hands down to our sides into Tadasana. So we're nice and tall all along from our toes all the way up to the top of our head, reaching those fingers down toward the earth, lifting the heart, our legs, our abs, all is nice and strong and active. We should feel sturdy and peak-like. I don't know, that's a word, right? Inhale, let's bring those hands up high. Good. Exhale, cactus arms, opening up the chest, tiny back bend here. And then inhale, let's lift those hands up high. Again, cactus arms or goalpost arms, opening up that chest, tiny back bend. So we're just mostly lifting the heart up to the sky. And then back up to the sky with those hands. Good. And now let's bring those hands out in front of us that we're like we're asking for more. Keeping our hips facing forward, planting those feet nice and strong. We're just going to exhale and bring the hands around to one side. Just bringing the shoulders and the arms, the hips and the feet and the legs are all staying where they are. And then back to the front. And then exhale over to the other side. And back to the front. Good. Inhale, hands come up high. And a big circle. Let's bring those knees together as we sit down into our chair. Good. Inhale, backward circles. Open up those shoulders. And exhale again. Big circles with those arms. As we sit down into the chair. Good. Strong core here. We've got those mountain legs working hard. Good. Inhale all the way up to the sky. And then exhale, opening those arms nice and wide. We'll swan dive down into a forward fold. And now let's inhale to a half lift. So looking forward, flat back, hands can be on our shins or on our thighs, to the ground or our toes. Exhale, let's fold a little bit deeper. Bending the knees so our hands find our mats, and we'll step back to our downward facing dog. Lengthen in the spine, pull the shoulders back, bend the knees as we set our upper half where we want it, and then we can begin to lengthen in the legs. Good. Let's inhale forward into a plank. A plank can be on our toes or it can be on our knees. Good. And as we exhale, we're just going to shift our weight forward and lower ourselves down. Elbows stay over our wrists as we lower all the way down to our tummies. Soften the feet behind us. Hands are still underneath of our shoulders. We'll pull those buddies back behind us. Good. And then inhale, scooping the chest forward and then up into an upward facing dog. And we'll tuck the toes behind us, lift the hips, press with our hands all the way back to downward facing dog. Good. Let's lift those heels up off of the ground onto our tippy toes. Lengthen in the spine, keeping that upper half nice and long. And exhale, we're just going to swish those heels over to the right. And then inhale back to those tippy toes. And you guessed it, exhale over to the left. Good. Inhale back up to the sky with those heels. Reset in that spine, make it nice and long. And then pressing the heels down in towards our mats again. Towards, if we don't get there, it's totally fine. Good. Looking forward, bending at the knees, and then stepping forward into our forward fold at the top of our mat. Good. Bending the knees. We'll roll our way up. Pulling the shoulders back, lifting the hands, making ourselves nice and tall and strong. And then exhale, big circles with the arms. Let's sit down into our chair. Good. Let's bring our hands together at our hearts. I'm going to turn so we can see what we're doing. Sitting down into that chair, pulling the shoulders back, using that prayer to open up the shoulders. Sit down, nice and tall in the spine. We're going to take this left elbow all the way around to the outside of the right knee. Good, and slowly we'll unwind. Let's inhale all the way up to the sky. Good, exhale, cactus arms, lift the heart. Inhale up. Let's do a chest expansion here, so pulling the arms back behind us, lifting the heart. We can hold on to our hands together and help them down toward the ground, or we can hold the yoga ball. We can even hold our elbows. Ooh, this is what I need today. Good, and then we'll gently release. Hands come up, and then again, sit down into that chair. Giving those legs a little bit of a rest here. Sitting down into that squat, lifting the heart, tucking the tail. Keep this nice and open. None of this. Nice here. Good, and then hands together at our hearts, pressing into those palms. We're going to go to the other side. So right elbow comes all the way across to the left knee. Keep that prayer pressing nice and tight so that we open up those shoulders with some gentle encouragement. And then slowly we'll come back to the center. Inhale, nice and high. And then exhale, let's fold forward. Inhale to a flat back, long legs. Exhale, we'll lower down again into our fold. Drop the head. And now we'll gently bend the knees. Hands can find the floor if we need it for balance. We're going to keep our right foot where it is. We're going to take the left foot and step back behind into like a little crisscross leg. And then exhale, begin to lengthen those legs again. Lower the heart, drop the head. Use that breath to help deepen our fold. Relax our shoulders. And then we'll gently bend those knees again so that we can put a little bit more pressure onto our fingers so we can unwind safely. And then we'll go over to the other side. So left foot stays, right foot crosses back behind. We lengthen and then fold on that exhale. And begin to straighten those knees a little bit further if we want to or can. And then slowly we'll bend those knees, a little bit more weight on those hands. We'll unwind. Lengthen in the back. One more half lift here. And then exhale, we fold. We'll bend the knees so our hands find the floor, and we'll step back into our downward facing dog. Let's pedal it out. Press into those fingers, pulling the shoulders back. We can wag our tail. Good. And then again, let's lengthen in that spine. Press those heels down. Really concentrating on the backs of those legs today. And then inhale, let's come forward. Strong plank here. Plank can be strong on our toes or on our knees. Exhale, shifting forward, lowering down, all the way down to our tummies. Softening the feet behind us, hands stay underneath of our shoulders. As we inhale, scooping forward and then up. Keep the length in that back, in the back as we slowly lower those hips down toward the floor. And now from here, let's drop the knees and we'll press back into a child's pose, rounding in the spine. You can wiggle those fingers, give our wrists a little bit of a roll if we need. And then from here, let's keep our arms nice and long out in front of us, and we'll walk those hands together so that they are right out in front of our shoulders, or maybe even a little bit more narrow. And then we'll turn those palms up toward the sky. Good. And now let's bend those elbows, placing them on the ground, and we'll bring our hands together and behind our head. We'll walk those elbows forward just a little bit, readjust, and then sink the butt back. So now we're opening up in those triceps again, deep into those armpits. Good. And then we'll release those hands back down to the mat. And then begin to walk and wiggle those fingers forward, keeping our chests nice and low. Hips will come up above our knees, but not further than the knees. Once we hit that spot, arms are out long, and then we sink the chest down low. Now we get to relax in that upper half while the lower half is nice and strong. Good. And then slowly We're gonna lower those elbows down to the floor, and we'll bring our chests forward and lower all the way down onto our bellies again. We can soften, let our head sit down, and then bring those arms to our sides behind us. Take a couple of breaths here. And then let's walk those thighs together, bringing them nice and close. Hands can come underneath of our head if we would like. So our right hand will stay underneath of our head. We're going to reach back with the left hand and try and find that left foot. So we'll bend the knee, hold that foot nice and strong, and bring it in towards our butt, really pressing that left hip into the ground. Lengthen in the femur and the thigh. Breathe deeply. Now what we can do from here is keeping that grasp in our foot, we're going to begin to turn over onto our side, open up that hip a little bit. For a lazy bow, I don't know what to call this. Good, and then we'll gently come back to our tummies. Take a breath here. And then the left hand can come underneath of our head if we would like. Right hand reaches back behind, finds the foot. Bring those legs back together. We don't want to be nice and wide here. Pulling that heel into our butt. About lengthening in that upper leg and the thigh area, pressing the hip down into our mats. And then we'll slowly roll over onto that left side and open up in the front of our body. Lengthen still in that thigh. Open up the shoulder. All sorts of things are happening here. If anything, we look a little ridiculous, and that's fun too. And then we'll release and come back to our tummies. Let's press ourselves back to our child's pose. And we'll swish our feet over to one side and come back to seated. Our feet are out in front of us. And we're going to tuck this left foot, just let it sit nice and relaxed where we want it, and we're going to concentrate on this right leg for a little bit. So using our fingertips, we're just going to hold on to these first top two wheels of our car in our foot, right? Holding on to like the big toe and the pinky toe side, and we'll flex that foot in towards us. I'm pressing the knee into my chest, flexing the foot. Nice straight back here. Opening up the inside of our foot. And now, keeping our right hand on the outside, we're just going to begin to lengthen in that leg. If it doesn't get all the way long, that's totally fine. Find where we can attach the tummy to the thigh. So if we're here, that's cool. We're still getting a nice good stretch in that hamstring. Keeping the foot flexed. We begin to just find and challenge ourselves. Find a good spot where we can hang out for a couple, 3 breaths without being in pain. There's work and then there's pain. Don't forget about that. You don't want the pain. And then our left hand will hold on to the thigh so it can stay where it's at. And the right hand is really just going to flex that foot and begin to lengthen. So we're getting into that calf a little bit. Just kind of wiggle. See where we can find that calf stretch. There it is. Good. And then we'll gently release. Give it a little wiggle, a little shake if we need. And then we'll switch over to the other side. So tucking that right leg, it doesn't have to be anywhere special, just wherever it's nice and comfortable. And then holding on to these 2 little pads on our feet with our fingertips. We're gonna attach our thigh and our tummy together. And begin to stretch out our foot, open up in that arch, in the toe area. Hug that buddy tight into our tummy. Lift the heart. And then left hand will remain and we'll begin to lengthen in that leg. Find where we're at. On this side, it might be different, probably will be different. Begin to challenge ourselves, see how long we can get that leg without sacrificing a long back. Good, and now the right hand can hold on to that thigh if we need. We'll readjust that left hand so we can really flex the foot. And we'll begin to work into that calf, really flexing the foot, lengthening all the way down this calf, doing our best to stay still in the rest of our body as we wiggle into the spot. There it is. Good, and then we'll just release that foot. Again, give them a wiggle if we need. And then we'll hug those knees into our chest and we'll rock down onto our backs. Make sure that we can get our whole spine. So this is a great time as we bend our knees, we can get that low back onto the mat. Roll up into our ball. And then from here, elbows come to the inside of our knees. We'll hold that pinky toe side again. Lengthen in that spine. Exhale, we'll lower our head and shoulders down into the mat, using that action to help bring the knees down in towards our mat. Let gravity help. We open up those hips. for dead bug. Think about pressing that tail down in towards our mat. Relaxing the shoulders. And then we'll release the feet and let our hands and feet reach up toward the sky. We'll roll around in those ankles and in the wrists. We'll wiggle the fingers and the toes. We can make little fists open wide. A little crackleasana. And once we've got as many crackles as we can get out, another lengthen with an inhale, and then a really slow exhale as we lower those hands and legs down toward the mat. Slowly and with control, lowering, lowering, lowering. A little challenge for yourself. See how slow we can go. And guess what? We just did our abs for the day. Once we find our legs and our arms onto the floor, make ourselves long, reaching with those fingers, pressing with the feet. And another big exhale. This one can be a quick one. Everything releases. We close our eyes. We soften our jaw. We relax all of the little tiny muscles in our face. Take these next couple of breaths to give ourselves permission to just be still, to be supported by the earth underneath of us, to let our mind wander. Let's begin to deepen our breath. Very gently, we wiggle our fingers and our toes. We bring awareness back into our bodies. We come back into our space. And whenever we're ready, there is no time limit for this. We'll gently help ourselves up to seated. We'll bring our hands together at our hearts. And take some time to give ourselves some thanks. To acknowledge all of the gifts that we just gave ourselves. To hold on to the peace that we have created within ourselves. The connection that we've built between our physical and our mentals. Take one more inhale in and open our hearts. Exhale as we open our minds. I thank you so much for allowing me to help you through your practice today. I wish you all a very, very happy day. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.